To appreciate the art of Nelson da Costa, one must consider his profound personal journey through war, violence, and loss. Nelson explores these themes through bold color, shadow, and silhouette. There's a sense of memory for the things he cannot express in words.
The more I work, the more I think I balance myself.
Nelson shared his art and his story with us in the studio space he shares with other artists in Dorchester. He smiles a lot, plays drums occasionally, but mostly works hard, one painting at a time, each taking several weeks to finish. His talent was discovered in the most unlikely way. Nelson's home of Angola was in a brutal civil war. He witnessed the murder of his mother and father. 4 of his siblings were killed. At 12 years old, he was living in an orphanage where he was shot in the shoulder and left for dead. He ended up in a hospital where a Cuban doctor encouraged him to draw as part of his recovery. The doctor was impressed with Nelson's abilities, and Nelson had found a safe way to express himself.
Because when you are in the war, nobody wants to listen stories. People just want to protect themselves. They don't have time to share.
Nelson's doctor helped him escape to Cuba, where he could attend school. But Nelson says it was a difficult transition. He was 14 in a strange country where he didn't speak the language or understand the culture. But slowly, amazingly, he adapted.
I look back, it's one of the most phenomenal to comprehend how I be able to understanding, how I understood. I am in Cuba. I need to learn this. I need to create some strategy to survive, to comprehend where I live, how I live, and which type of person I want to be.
In Cuba, Nelson got an education, married another artist, and began to develop his artistic style. It's hard to categorize, part abstract, part figurative. This work evokes the memory of a lost brother. It's not a portrait, just a shape against a backdrop of confusion and chaos.
And at the same time, when you remember him, you remember the tragedy, the way he died.
In Cuba, Nelson developed this idea of using his craft to transcend the trauma of his past.
When I start to work, of course, I feel I am here, but the things start to be together, you transcend in terms of where you are, in terms of space. Of course, you are here, your feet on the ground, but your brain, is over the place. You start to perceive your life, sense of childhood, the more dramatic moments, the best moments, and you travel in this process to make the image. And of course, that traveling is the things make you feel better, is the things make you feel useful.
Nelson lived and worked in Cuba 18 years until he and his wife decided to immigrate to the United States. In 2002, Nelson ended up in Boston, where once again he was homeless in a new country where he didn't speak the language. He found shelter here at the Pine Street Inn, where he learned English and refocused his life on his art.
I think Nelson's career is one in which I could easily believe almost anything happening. I think the upside is huge with him.
Arthur Dion is director of Gallery Naga on Newbury Street in Boston.
So these are 4 pieces of Nelson's from the past year and a half, 2 years.
The gallery began representing Nelson a few years after he arrived in Boston. Nelson made it out of the Pine Street Inn and was accepted to the joint MFA program of Tufts University and the School of the Museum of Fine Arts. He invited Arthur to his review, and Arthur was blown away. What was it about this that knocked you out?
Everything. It's got a very haunting quality. It's got people, it has objects, it has animals, everything's connected. We feel it almost more than we understand it. We recognize some things, we don't recognize everything. There's something hopeful about it, but there's also something difficult about it.
And that, Arthur says, is the mark of truly great art. It challenges and makes a demand. Nelson hopes people sense his story on a global scale in the context of millions of other victims of violence. In 2005, Nelson was given political asylum in the U.S. He's now the proud father of 2 young boys, looking for ways to use his art to help others.
I think art is good to see, you know, this human family. At some point we have been very much dysfunctional, but I hope somehow some generation will be more functional. So, and we have the responsibility and the capacity to make things working better.
Nelson is one of the tenderest people I've ever met, and the fact that he's had difficult life experiences he's had and can approach the world with the openness and trust that he does is astonishing to me.
With each new finished piece, Nelson continues to journey beyond sadness and isolation to make himself whole. Beth Shelburne, NECN.